Welcome, everyone. It's delightful to see all these smiley faces. I don't know where you're all checking in from, and we have a few more people still to come tonight. But I want to introduce myself and introduce our wonderful panel that I cannot wait to hear from tonight. My name is Bruce Cryer. I am the president of the Graduate Institute. As of tomorrow, I will be 11 months in this role. And I have been in the field of holistic thinking, holistic studies, holistic living for a freaking long time, like going on 50 years, no kidding. And it's been a lifestyle, let alone a way of thinking about life. And one of my professional dimensions that was the most prominent in my journey is that for the last 30 years, I've been part of something called Heart Math. And I was one of the original creators of Heart Math back in the early 90s. So I had the privilege of giving roughly 4,000 holistic presentations talking about the heart and the brain and physiology and coherence and all over the world, 4 continents. And so when I was asked to become president of the Graduate Institute, a little more than a year ago, it was an honor, first of all, but also it felt kind of like coming home in a way, like, oh, you mean there's a graduate school in Connecticut just dedicated to holistic studies? How cool is that? I never knew about that. And so it was a fun challenge to consider what this would be like, not knowing initially that COVID would be this overwhelming factor in the whole thing. And so here I am 11 months later, and I still haven't met all the staff because we don't use our building. We're all virtual. It's working. It's been working okay. I mean, it's been working fine. And we're all eager, however, to hug each other once again. And those of you who are close by, I look forward to hugging all of you too. So tonight, what I think is special, and I don't know that we've done this before. Joyce, have we ever done a panel just of alumni? Yeah, I loved when we started talking about this in the marketing group, because part of our opportunity here within TGI is to try to come up with interesting, engaging, real world ways to talk about what it is that we do. You start talking about holistic studies, and some people, their eyes glaze over quickly because they don't really know what holistic studies are. Their association of the word holistic is non-traditional, meaning it's the stuff you don't go to the doctor for. It's everything else, which doesn't really describe what holistic means at all. It just means kind of all the other stuff. That's not a definition. And so really holistic, of course, means a lot more. It means we as people are whole people. We are whole systems. An example I will give to be fairly self-disclosing right away is 12 years ago, I was in a doctor's office and I knew I had a fairly significant health problem. I didn't know quite what the diagnosis was going to be, and he used the word cancer, and he said, "This is definitely cancer." And so when I heard the word cancer, do you suppose it was just my physical body that responded to that? Do you suppose my mind didn't start racing? What does this mean? How will this change my life? Do you suppose my emotions went crazy and think, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me? Do you suppose even my spirit was kind of like, what's going on, dude? Or maybe whispering, this is what's supposed to happen now. My point being, we are whole people. All of those dimensions were alive in that moment and continued to be as I went through my own journey. I'm now, by the way, a little more than 11 years cancer-free. So the journey had a successful outcome. But my point being that we are whole people. And so we can't separate the parts from the whole. We can try. We can tell ourselves we're only our mind until our heart starts screaming. We can tell ourselves we're not really spiritual until our spirit starts whispering loudly and knocking on doors and giving us all kinds of signs that something maybe needs to change. So tonight, what we have the pleasure is to hear from 5 women who I'm meeting for the first time tonight as well, although I've seen several of them on videos that they've done for TGI. And we're going to hear them talk about what their experiences have been in going through TGI. They all have master's degrees from TGI. They actually all went through the Integrative Health and Healing program. And so we have an opportunity to hear, and you'll be able to ask questions, of course, as well, hear from these lovely, interesting, inspired women and what this education has meant. So that's what we're going to do tonight. And I look forward to hearing all these expressions. So I'm going to throw out a first question, and any of the five, when you answer, why don't you just start, introduce yourself briefly, and then give whatever answer you would like to give. And just the last thing I will say in setting this up is that what I've heard so many times, both from staff of TGI who are themselves alumni, as well as many alumni I've heard on webinars, through videos, through phone calls I've had with them, through Zoom calls I've had, that it's the experience of going through the educational process, which was as profound as anything. Yes, you learned things that were useful as a health practitioner, if that's what you are, or a science teacher, or a nurse, or a teacher of any kind, or a social worker, whatever it is that you do. You learned facts and information that was highly useful. But there was something about the experience itself of how the education was done that was also very striking and transformative. So my first question that I wanted to throw out to all of you is, when you think about kind of the 2 years that you were with your cohort, and for those of you new to this, the model that we've used for 20 years basically is a weekend cohort-based model, Friday night, all day Saturday rather, and once a month. That's the general scope, and then there's some other variations sometimes. But you're together with a group, and this goes on for 2 years, and so. I would bet there's at least one memory that you each have that stands out right away. And I don't care what the reason is it stands out, but the question was, what's the most vivid memory you have of the 2 years you spent? So introduce yourselves, and I can't wait to hear your answers.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Arroyo. I'm a high school science teacher in Waterbury, Connecticut. Grew up in Waterbury, teaching Waterbury, giving back to the community. I coach as well. I coach a couple sports, so I'm really in tune with the kids. I try to get them engaged as much as possible. I would like to, as soon as you said cohort, what's the most vivid memory with them? I would just say, I'm a late person in general. I arrive late a lot of different places, and TGI was just so accepting. On Friday nights, we would have dinner, and I'm like, oh no, like I don't even want to get up. I'm late. Let me just sit down and start the work. And they were just so proud, like, oh no, go get yourself a plate. Oh, they'll bring me a plate. And it was just that family unity on that Friday for dinner. And I really gravitated towards that, because it's one thing to be united, but then to be accepting when maybe another person of your family doesn't act like you would, in whatever way. So I just thought, like, off the top of the dome, that was definitely my most favorite memory, the food and the company around it.
Well, and that's a lovely comment to make, Alyssa, of the accepting nature, because a lot of environments, there's an inherent competition or a jealousy even, and it wouldn't be, oh, well, Alyssa's the late one, and you're feeling welcomed all the time. So that's quite a tribute to your cohort, your program coordinator, I'm sure, and it's a lovely vibe. It sounds nice. Let's do a reunion of your cohort and invite me.
Got it.
Good. So who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Great.
Hi, my name is Gina Foster. I'm a nurse. And one of the things that struck me about the cohorts is that the visiting faculty were so friendly. I was not used to that. I was not used to that experience. I come from a very structured environment. And like Elise said, it was very warm and very familial, and it was comforting. We all went by our first names. It wasn't like many of them had many degrees. I mean, they were just smart beyond belief. And they said, call me by my first name, and then feel free to interrupt, ask as many questions as you want. It really made me feel comfortable right off the start. And even the whole setup, I mean, we were sitting, it was not like a auditorium where we're all seated and we're in rows and the professor's up front. I mean, we were in like a circle. and they were talking to us, and we were able to get involved, and it was really great experience.
Excellent. So there's a lot of warmth that comes through in what you're saying. It's just an inviting atmosphere, not rigid, or where the professor is sort of God and
exactly
all the rest of us are the peons, kind of thing. Not at all. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
I'll jump right on board if that's okay.
All right, Cheryl. Awesome. Thank you.
I'm Cheryl Martinelli. I teach second grade in Goshen, Connecticut in Region 6. I was so fortunate to graduate with Alicia and Alyssa. So we were all part of that wonderful cohort. And she's absolutely right. You come in on Friday night, it doesn't matter how tired you are from the day or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, my family. This is my TGI family. And they were just so, like she said, welcoming and warm. And Bruce, you mentioned the hugs. That's the first thing we all did. We all went around and hugged each other. It's all good. It's all good. And, if anybody needed anything, or we checked in with everybody, sometimes our program coordinator would check in with all of us, and we do a circle thing. And if somebody needed to be celebrated, we were celebrating. If somebody needed some warm fuzzies, we would be there for them, and they'd be in our hearts for that whole time. And it was just really great. Yeah, the food was awesome, by the way, and very healthy. And that was so welcoming. And then you come, you leave on Friday, and I don't know about you two or the rest of you with TGI, but I leave on a Friday night thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much. This is just so exciting. And I have trouble falling asleep. But Saturday morning, it's like, I can't wait to get there. Can't wait to get there. It was just such a great, and I call these people my TGI family, because you know what, we have a text, we still connect with each other now and then, and that's really nice. So Bruce, I totally agree with you. As soon as people can get in that building, they need to get in that building and get together, because there's so many great experiences, but the connection to having all those people there was absolutely wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, Cheryl. So who would like to go next, Allison or Alicia?
I'll go next.
Alicia, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm just going to kind of echo what both Alyssa and Cheryl said. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I currently work for the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services with the state of Connecticut. And then I have a part-time private practice on the side, and I'm building the foundation to open up my own wellness center soon, which I'm really excited about. And this program was absolutely the launching pad for that. But I would, have a really stressful week, and I couldn't wait to go to school. And people at work would say, you have school this weekend, don't you? Because you're glowing as you're getting ready to go out the door on Friday. And I would say, yes, absolutely. And I appreciated so much the ability to be vulnerable, the ability for people to hold space when that was needed, and the ability to celebrate. We cried together, we laughed together, we definitely broke bread together. It was really just amazing. And, I said my tribe, that's what I labeled the people that I went through the program with, is my tribe. And it felt like coming home every single time that I went to school. It really did. And, we've built lifelong friendships out of that. And it's just such a nurturing environment to actually learn in. I was a little bit nervous. I hadn't been in school for many, many years, and it didn't feel like I was in school. It felt like a journey of self-exploration and getting to know myself better, personally and professionally. And it was just absolutely life-changing. It was amazing.
Beautiful. So Allison.
I'm Allison. I'm an integrative health practitioner, and I really can't pick just one memory. It's everything everyone has already shared. I think the thing that stands out the most for me is that it felt so aligned, and it felt like divine timing. It felt like a synchronicity. There was just too many coincidences between myself and the faculty and the other students in my cohort. It was like everybody just, it was like the stars were aligned and we showed up at the same time. And so I remember before I found TGI, I didn't even really knew it existed. I was already planned and committed to go to UVA for a master's in educational psychology. And then I decided not to go. I found TGI, and I remember the advisor I was talking to at the moment, she sent me like a sample of the syllabus. And I remember looking at it, my jaw dropping, and just realizing those are all the books I already have in my bookshelf that I haven't read. Those are all the topics that I wanted to study that I didn't know there was a program that combined them all. It was just like a full knowing, visceral, chill response of like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. So the 2 years is a memory in my field of just a transformational experience. Every weekend was like deep healing, pulling back the other layer, opening up to something new. And yeah, I would go through the program again, and I might someday, who knows? I would do it again and again. I think I would learn something new each time. It was really that special. Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow, what a set of wonderful responses. So I would love to pick up on a couple things that were just said. Cheryl, you mentioned a little bit of nervous. I'm sorry, Alicia mentioned a little bit of nervousness because you hadn't been in school for a while. And I'm sure each of you had certain things that were like, this, I mean, it wasn't all roses for 2 years. There had to have been moments, even on personal levels, where you'd, because it is a self-exploration process, you discover something, a part of yourself that doesn't feel beautiful, that doesn't look beautiful, that doesn't feel like you want to feel. And without forcing anybody to reveal anything you don't feel comfortable sharing, I would love to hear from anyone who wants where it was hard, where it was challenging, but then you got through it, and how you grew in the process of perhaps facing some aspect of yourself that you hadn't expected was going to come up, or anything on the personal front is really what I'm trying to get at here. That's not just about how wonderful the program is, but also kind of how you got through something that was maybe quite challenging and saw new learnings about yourself, et cetera. I think you understand, I'm sure, what I'm looking for here. So anybody wants to jump in, go for it.
I'll take that question first.
Awesome, Lisa.
I think the most challenging thing was the amount of information that you learned. TGI is a great program, and just like Allison said, it has so many different topics that now you want to improve on so many different aspects of your life. Or on, that's what I did in my personal experience. I'm just like, I want to improve on cultivating my dreams to mean something. I want to dive into different frequencies. I want to, let me get a singing bowl, and let me buy this on Amazon. It was just so many things that I was exposed to that at times, and I would, after the whole weekend, loved the weekend. And I'm like, oh boy, now this is so much more stuff I know. And that's the beauty that I love about learning and knowledge, is that once you have it, it's there. So I was able to build on it, but I'm like, oh no, now I have like 2 more weeks until the next thing that I learned that's going to be super big, super important, and super valuable. That was really a challenge to give myself that space and that courtesy, that love, to be able to take a step back and realize that, yes, these are all aspects that I can improve upon. And with having a priority or having a goal with small goals, other things on that list will also get accomplished. Maybe if I dive into shaking, that gets through with my high frequency of cultivating a positive attitude in my classroom. So I was learning how to kind of dabble in, but not be overwhelmed and taken back. And I also learned about myself that I really do feel positive. I felt very natural in the space where the positivity and comfort and support was there. But I also realized how much of a know-it-all that I can come off as to other people, when it's like, I know the information, I want to give it to you. This is great. Like, I learned all this stuff. I need you to get this, because I got it. I want to share it so much. But it came off as I was learning through holding space as everyone did for each other while speaking in the cohort, to just give them that space, that when they're ready, when they want to come, that's when it'll happen. You know, leading by example is a great tool, but also, you know, leading by example and giving them maybe a little taste, because going through the weekend, we had so much information, and maybe a person who's not thrown into this journey for the 2 years, you know, it might be so overwhelming. So giving them a little taste, like, oh, what are you doing in the corner? Oh, I'm just shaking what I learned in class, you know, it just kind of raises my energy, you know, and it caught on that way. So I was able to take a different approach of teaching the people I love. Teaching my students is different with that type of challenge. You know, I'm able to hold their space. I know the levels that they're at, but, you know, as an adult with my adult friends, with my, you know, colleagues, it was a different relationship with me, because I wasn't sure how to manage that. You know, I know you're capable of knowing everything I know. You're an adult as well. Let's give it to you. But I really feel that just being in that space, holding that space, I was able to overcome that and allow learning to happen, whether it's just from people watching me or, you know, hearing about a story, and really giving everyone that time that I had 2 years, you know, so thank you.
Great. Well, that's a great dynamic of the kind of the balancing of the overwhelming nature of, I mean, just committing to a 2-year learning journey of anything could be overwhelming, right? It's not unique to TGI, I'm sure, but I'm sure others of you ran into something like that at a certain point of, there's just so much. How do you absorb and integrate all that you're learning? Anybody wants to speak to that, or any other point, jump right in. But I love that dynamic of how do you keep the balance between, number one, probably all of you were also doing something besides being in TGI. In other words, you had a full-time job. Maybe you're also a mom. Maybe you're also a partner. Maybe you're also a sister, a daughter, whatever else is very big in your life. This wasn't it. This wasn't all that you had. So easy to be overwhelmed these days. So I'm interested if that kind of dynamic came up from anybody else, or anything else you found particularly challenging, but you were able to get through it. Love to hear that. Anyway, Cheryl, go for it.
I'll jump in quickly. It was interesting that there wasn't a specific deadline for certain things. Like when you read the books, you have to do like a little report on them. It ended up being a long report, but you know, it was all meaningful. And then a summary really of what the weekend was about, that certain topic. I'm a procrastinator, but I always get things done by the deadline. And so, you know, I would ask my program coordinator, I was like, you know, well, what's the deadline? And she said, no, just do it when you can, get it done before the next 2 weeks, you know, or the next weekend or whatever. And at first I thought, this is a piece of cake. If you ever got behind though, that was a challenge. So I said to myself, I got behind one weekend and I was like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. Because when I sat down very shortly after that weekend, the Friday and the Saturday, and sometimes the Sunday, so much information, like Alyssa said, so much information, great stuff. I got to get this down now before I lose it. I mean, you take notes the whole time, you know, and all this and that, but I don't want to lose it up here. There's so much to share. So get it down, get it done, get it turned in, so that when the new session comes up that next week, it's like, okay, I'm ready. My brain is open, my mind is open, I'm spiritually here, I'm physically here, and I'm mentally here. And you can then focus on the next topic. But sometimes that good old procrastinator got the better of me, and I just had to make sure that I didn't take advantage of the freedom feeling that I could get it in whenever. But that only happened one weekend, and then I got myself together. So I was like, no, this I need to be more rigid about this, but it's all awesome stuff. It's all good stuff.
Well, that's a very counterintuitive situation. So a situation where you're aware you procrastinate, and you're put in a role where you were allowed to. I mean, it wasn't like there was all this discipline kind of forcing you to get out of that mode. It was more like, oh, you want to procrastinate? No problem. You can procrastinate up until you have quite a lot of freedom to procrastinate. You can be that. So then you had to self-police or self-discipline. That's cool. That's a great insight. What else challenging? Anybody else want to jump in on what you found?
I'll jump in.
Great. Thanks,
So,
Gina.
what was most challenging for me is that the list of the books and the LERs that we had to do. And initially, I read every word in the book. I mean, I'm not one that can glaze over paragraphs. I read every word and I took down every fact that I felt was important. And initially, my LERs and my book reviews were like 20 pages because I would not only look at the information that was given to me, but I'd go on the internet and research it because I wanted to see if it was actually true. And so I would stress myself out doing these LERs and doing these, book reviews like every month, to the point where my cohort leader says, Gina, you could relax. You don't have to, put all these references down, which is what I did. Sometimes I have a page of references. You don't have to write all this information. You don't have to write down every word. Just tell me what ministered to you in the book, what you got out of the book. And it took me a long time before I could get myself to the point where I got my LERs down to like 5 pages or 3, because I would allow myself to get all stressed out, and I'd want to learn more, and I want to research the topic further, but I realized I had to calm down if I'm ever going to get to the next month's book or, the next LER.
And can you just tell us what LER means?
Oh, learning event review, correct? It's like what you learned that weekend with the visiting faculty. It started off where you had to get like 10 points, and I would give 10 points plus and the references. They later reduced it to 5, but that was basically what you got out of that weekend, what your experiences was. And I just had such a huge experience because there's nothing I had never experienced before, that my papers were very lengthy, and I'm sure she got bored reading all those papers that I had. She's like, oh no, here's LER again.
She was probably very impressed, actually. But I think this is another great story, because to me, the style of how the integrative health and healing is taught, and I think this speaks to all of our programs, is very allowing, is very spacious. And so what you identified in yourself, Gina, was this part of you that wants to do things perfect, and also then double check, like read the book super thoroughly, and then also double check that is all this really, really true. It's one thing to be written in a book, that doesn't mean it's true. So you wanted to validate it elsewhere, like a good scientific method would do. And in the process, you could be throwing yourself out of balance, it sounds like, right? Mm-hmm. So since we're whole people, that desire to be kind of perfectionist and do the most thorough job imaginable could throw yourself out of whack at the same time. So that seemed like part of your own learning. They weren't even asking you to look at that. It was more like the process itself was revealing stuff that you could sort of adjust and learn from. That's cool. Did I express that appropriately?
You did. Yes.
Great. Awesome. Alicia, you look like you're unmuted, so you look like you're trying to say something. Go for it.
I think for me, one of the biggest challenges was, so when I entered this program, I had just come out of a toxic relationship. And, piggybacking off of what Allison had said around synchronicity and the universe speaking to you, and just like everything happening, as I'm getting out of that relationship, I had kind of lost myself in that relationship, and I was getting to know myself all over again, so to speak. And, our growth is not just a straight line up. It's dips and squirrels and all of that. And it's not a linear process. And there were times where, I would be thinking about something. We would have a particular learning event or speaker for that weekend, and it would kind of put in my face what I was trying to kind of grow through and move through. And so there were times like, oh man, here it is again, but I moved through it. And ultimately, the growth was just amazing, but sometimes that was hard. But again, it was a safe place to be, because I had my tribe, and because my Sherpa, my program consultant, was just really generous, really gentle, and knew how to give back. And I would reflect that in my LERs. I felt really safe being able to do that. And so, but that was challenging sometimes, you know, to kind of take a look at what was going on for me internally and being like, okay, here's an AFGO, another F and growth opportunity, you know. So.
Thank you for that. And like you say, I mean, the rest of your life was not just mild and boring. So you were going through this process of self-discovery while you were in the middle of a major life event, as you say, kind of exiting a toxic relationship, which by definition means all kinds of stuff is still there. It's not like you move out or the other person moves out and it's just over, right? You're still living with the side effects, you know, for a while, and it can kind of get almost amplified in other environments that are open like that. You kind of see it more, right? Because you're not in it, in the reacting to it so much. Now it's like a lot of the source of the toxicity is gone, but now you still got the toxicity.
Right.
So you're like, oh, wow, what's my part in this?
Exactly.
Not that I've ever experienced any of this, by the way. But I have friends. So obviously I know the territory a little bit. So thank you for all that. That was cool.
Sure.
Allison, I think you haven't shared on this one. Love to hear from you.
I can. So I didn't really have a major challenge. I felt like I was in the right place and everything was feeling really aligned. The one thing that I will reiterate is the lack of deadlines. And so the lack of structure was challenging for how most of us went to school. You know, we were in a place where there was a really strict syllabus. There were due dates. If you didn't get that due date, you either, you know, didn't get a grade or you automatically failed. Like, that's not how this works. Which was, we would joke, like, part of the process, like part of the experience was that there was this lack of structure. So it really had you figure out your own structure and what worked for you. And like Cheryl said, like, keeping yourself accountable was part of the growing process. And the one other challenge that I think struck me was the thesis. So I never wrote a thesis before. And then all of a sudden at the end of the master's, it was like, wow, I have this huge paper due. And what do I do? And so I carved out a lot of time of just sitting and researching and writing. And it came all together beautifully. But that was something that at times I wish I did have a little bit more hand-holding to guide me through how to write a thesis and how to structure that, and to even then receive more feedback about that. You know, it was such a big monumental piece. And then once it was done, it felt like it was done. And so I still wonder if that thesis will ever resurface for me somewhere, some way, and I'll look at it again. So the work is real, both internally and externally. It's like, you got some stuff to do, you got some papers to submit, and you have to be doing the reflection piece. You know, it's a really holographic experience. So
that's a great distinction. I appreciate this. It's fun to hear the all the facets, the faces of the diamond of your shared experience, everybody. I would love to ask now, when you think about how you have grown both on personal and professional levels through going through this process, if you could answer in both sides, what do you feel is the most significant change, growth area that you have grown in personally? And then also, if you can identify a way in which you also feel like, I've also clearly I've grown in this way professionally, in another way or a similar way professionally. So it'd be fun to hear kind of the two parts of what parts of you, and remembering this is not a course. There's a lot of content in this course. This 2 years, you learned all kinds of modalities, and tonight was not about explaining all of that. Although it'd be fun if anybody wants to allude to one of those that was a trigger for a lot of growth for you, great. But I guess my point in all this is that what we've heard so far is not even talking about the exceptional content. We're wanting to kind of educate folks to the process itself is a powerful process involving many kind of unusual factors, unusual compared to traditional education. So love to hear from you. In what way do you feel you've grown the most personally? And also, what's the biggest professional growth you've seen?
I'll jump right in.
Great.
I feel the way basically my culminating project was on forgiveness. And I felt I've grown in the area of forgiveness because as I researched my topic and I researched the different religions that has forgiveness as part of their healing process, I realized that there was many areas in my life that I had not forgiven. And I really needed to deal with those areas where I thought I had forgiven. I had many myths about forgiveness. It's not forgetting, you remember the hurt, and you just have to make a choice that you're not going to allow that past hurt to keep coming up in your life and hurting you again. And so that actually transcends my personal and professional life, because there's always opportunities within your family, which they say the people closest to you can hurt you the most. I had to forgive there. I had to forgive in my job. And I feel that was area in which I have grown the most, and I continue to grow as I, things try to come back and haunt you. So I would say that I have grown in forgiveness, and it's a process in which I continually work on every day.
Is there also a connection to that professionally, or would you answer the professional part any differently?
Oh, well, I guess, professionally, it helped me to understand the nature of people and human nature. So when I go to work each night, I recognize that we all have the similar struggles, and it helped me be more empathetic and understanding of people in my environment who are going through what I'm going through. And so I can understand, why they're reacting in such a way, why they flying off the handle. Sometimes I work in the emergency room at the VA hospital, and sometimes our coworkers can be very mean when they get under stress. And so in my professional life, it's helped me, the knowledge has helped me understand what they're going through, to be more empathetic towards them. But it also helps me to keep an eye on myself. It's like, okay, when I feel those emotions starting to erupt, I need to do something about it. I need to nip it in the bud. I need to forgive before it gets to the point where it's overwhelming. And I'm just, every time I come across that person, I'm angry, So
Beautiful.
It works both professionally and in family.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else feel like jumping in on that question, personal and professional? Sure, Alicia.
Yeah. Personally, I think I learned how to trust myself a little bit more, actually a lot more. So to trust myself and trust what I was doing, and also kind of trust the process. And I gained a lot of strength, I think, through that. Professionally, so every learning event is, you're exposed to something different. And a little bit like Elisa, there were times where we're like, okay, I need to do this. Well, I need to do this too. And I need to do this. Okay, at least you got to dial it in somehow, But there were a couple of things that I did really jump onto. And so I became a certified hypnotherapist because we were exposed to a hypnotherapist. I became a holistic stress management instructor because that was my mentorship. And I also became a certified AcuDetox specialist because we were also introduced to auricular acupuncture. And all of those things just helped to kind of round out my private practice and help me be a better clinician and a better practitioner. And so I really appreciate all of that. And it's also, that goes back to the trust and, trusting my intuition when I'm working with a client. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for referring to some of the actual content that led you to things that were getting inspiring to you, that you wanted to take deeper, get a certificate in, a coaching program in, or whatever.
Yeah.
Excellent. And we don't have to, everybody doesn't have to answer every question, because there are one or two more questions I want to get into and then open it up to the group. But anybody else on this one?
Yeah, I want to jump in. Can I just
Great,
say,
Cheryl.
Gina, how beautiful was your response? I want to read your culminating project. Oh my gosh. But anyway, you know, Artemis Morris is an amazing doctor, and I learned, it's incredible what we could learn from her, and her demeanor is just calming and beautiful. And we're friends on Facebook, but I keep learning more from her. But every class that she was the instructor, there was so much. I think the shining star for me was Joan Palmer. You don't just call her Joan, it's Joan Palmer. And she is an amazing herbologist and nutritionist, and just, oh my gosh, her demeanor is fantastic as well. But I did my internship with her, and I was so fortunate to do that. 6 weeks of on her farm, you know, getting your hands dirty, learning about so many herbs and all the different plants and things. You know, I always had loved lavender, but now some of our tribe calls me the lavender lady, because I really got into that lavender bit, and you know, I really push it. I create my own lavender foot scrubs and, you know, do all that little stuff, but I share it with my staff at school. I mean, I've been there a long time. I'm one of the old dogs, and, you know, sharing stuff like that is just, it's just calming. And the teachers are like, oh, thank you for that. You know, just little things. And now since the pandemic has been happening, we all went back to school, and we're all in person. We have 4 schools in our district. So I asked my principal, I said, you know, I think the teachers we're doing all these things for the kids to make sure they're okay, and they're safe, and they're feeling okay, and they're feeling healthy and well, and just spiritually and, you know, emotionally. But we need that for the teachers as well. And she said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I know we can't really hold meetings and things. I said, but I'd really like to write a blog, a monthly blog. So every beginning of the month, I have one that I send out to all 4 schools in our district. The response has been very positive. It's been, you know, thank you for doing these. Can you touch base on this? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm able to do that because of all the things I learned at TGI. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Excellent. This is super fun for me to hear all of you share. It's a treat. Anyone else on that question? Yeah, Alyssa.
Yes. Just because I definitely changed personally, professionally because of TGI. I would say I changed professionally because I gave myself that space, and it was because that's what was allowed. That was the space at TGI. So I gave myself permission to rest. My first year of teaching, I took like 2 sick days, and that's when I was really, really sick. I didn't even use my personal aid. I didn't give myself time and burning out, and I was able to do that for the next years. And I was like, okay, you know what? Not only do I reset with maybe time off when I am sick, but my lunch break, I'm outside. You know, if I have a hard class, I make sure to lock the door. I put some music on. I dance around my classroom. All right, next class comes in. And I did that because there was one activity that we did. It was like aura reading, energy reading, and my cohort, some of the members that were paired up with me, they're like, oh, like they were able to feel my energy, my aura very, very, it was just like very spread out, I guess. They were able to feel it at a distance. And so I think just knowing that, like I always felt like my energy, I had a lot of energy, but for someone else to say that you can just feel my aura so powerfully, it really made me take a step back. Like, all right, I definitely have to make sure that I do reset, clean my energy, make sure that I'm present for my students in the way that's best, because my energy is so big that they're going to feel it when they walk in. And I think that was a big change for me, to make sure that it's not just the face of this classroom is running smoothly today. It's them knowing that it might not run smoothly today. I might have a bad day, but I know that this classroom is okay for me to do that in. And at the end of the year, I would get, I always ask them to write something, you know, how can I improve, or what did you like about the classroom? And a lot of the responses was, I like the energy here. I just like the energy here. You know, maybe I keep my lights off a whole day, all periods since September, calms it down. And we don't need the shining bright lights that hurt your eyes, or calm space. How can you work? I asked the students, do you guys want to go outside? Yeah, okay, cool, we'll go outside. And I mean, I had the liberty to do that. My class is on the first floor, but it was giving that space time to reset. You have so many different energies coming in. I teach 5 periods. I had 25 kids, 25 kids, 25 kids, whether it's online or not, because the energy is transforming over the internet. You know, it doesn't have to be just in person. That energy comes out. So it's giving my space, my professional classroom, time to reset. And I think that TGI probably supported me in my already thoughts about changing career paths whenever. I've never been one to like stick with, not commitment issues, but I like to dabble. And just to see all the beautiful minds within my cohort changing career paths, from doctors to farmers to mothers to lawyers, and just seeing everyone come together in this space where they were changing their career paths. And it being the youngest one of the cohort, I was like, okay, this is okay for me to do at this age, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s. And it was inspiring for me to see that at my age, to know that I can give it my all for teaching. And when teaching is not serving the same purposes for whatever reasons, you know, it's okay to change. And there's so many different avenues that I will be able to dabble in. So I really love that. I was inspired. And I think that was probably like one of our first classes where everyone introduces themselves and, you know, says a little background about themselves. It was truly inspiring. And I think changing personally, again, giving myself time and knowing that when things go wrong, you know, the right people will be where they need to be with you. And that's not to say that people are waiting for you and, you know, gaslighting you. It's whatever is for you is for you. And having that acceptedness in the program really drove that home for me. So, you know, I carry that on to my personal life. I carry that on to my students. And I learned that when I know something, the more you know, the less you know. So realize there's another way to learn exactly what you just learned, you know, and that's a different perspective. That's being open to those perspectives, that even if I assume this is correct because this is what I learned in class, you know, there's still that holistic side where there's still more avenues to circle around. So I'm able to absorb more input and be welcoming to more input. Thank you.
Great. Wow. You know what I would like to do, we've got a few minutes left till top of the hour and when we are officially supposed to end. And I'd love to just throw it to the audience and see if anybody, we can open up the gallery so we can see everybody. And does anyone have any question for the whole group or just for one group, a single member? Feel free to just unmute yourself and or raise your hand, however you want to do it, and I'll call on you and get a little dialogue going if anybody has any questions. Yeah, sir, please.
So, Bud McAllister, Partners in Healthy Communities. I'm in New London, and I was wondering if anybody would be interested in doing a retreat here. You know, you put together such a great group, and I hear the word synchronicity. Nothing happens by accident. I started my organization when one of my mentors, Father Emmett, and 12 other people I know that I'm either close to or principal in one of the organizations I work with, were all diagnosed with cancer within 30 days of each other.
Wow.
And today, I talk about synchronicity. We use a book at St. Francis House called All Saints, and it's not your typical Catholic saints. You have people like Dante and Camus, so it's obviously not your typical saints. And today was Rose Hawthorne Day. Her father was Nathaniel Hawthorne, part of the Transcendentalist group. And she started a hospital in New York City for people that had untreatable cancer. And she actually opened her house up to people before she started it became what do you call it, like a monastery for healing people. So what I want to talk about is a whole systems approach. You know, we in Connecticut, we get killed by a lack of county government. So I want to talk about reinventing county government, planning and development, transportation, water and wastewater, renewable energy, urban farming and forestry, which I call urbanomics. And finally, Robin Moore, which I've had a couple of brief conversations with. I met him when he was here at Connecticut College for the storytelling conference. And the name of the person who wrote the book about the Green Berets, if you remember back in Vietnam. And so we want to start a Green Peace Corps with compassionate communication.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bud. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else like to comment, ask any questions of any of the panelists tonight? I have other questions I can still ask, but if anybody has one, I wanted to open the floor up at least to that.
I do.
Great. Hi, Liz.
Hi, I am a psychiatric mental health nurse, board certified in addiction recovery. I'm also a Reiki practitioner, an aromatherapist, and a holistic stress management instructor also. How does one choose which program is right of the programs that are offered? As far, you know, I'm not sure how to pick. I'll keep it simple. I don't know how to pick.
So all five are interesting to you. Alicia, look, you have an answer for that.
I would say, do you know what your future goal is, what you're hoping to do with the degree that you get? Do you have a set goal in mind?
I would like to do a wellness center like you. I have a small Reiki practice that I would like to expand into other, offer other services.
Yeah. So I'm also an aromatherapist. I'm also a level 2 Reiki practitioner, and I work in mental health. And so I would say IHH is probably exactly where you want to be. It was transforming for me, and it just helped me in terms of, still being involved with mental health and addiction. And like I mentioned before, just being a better practitioner. I think you would get a tremendous amount out of it. I really do. And it will give you the opportunity to pick a couple of other things that you want to use to just kind of hone who you are in general and what you're able to offer to the people that you work with.
Yeah, because at this point, I don't really want to, I've worked hard enough in my professional nursing career that I'm able to be at a per diem phase. Nice. So I don't really want to, have to go back into that more so, but I don't want to give it up either. I like having my direct patient contact, and it's good. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me offer another perspective, and I'm the least educated of the people here relative to TGI, but I think it's a worthwhile perspective to consider, which is that given how much you've already done in fields similar to IHH, it could be, my first answer was exactly what Alicia just said, and I like that. Makes perfect sense to me. You're already in this world. You already relate to it deeply. You've already gotten all these other levels of experience and skill. And another way to look at it would be to try something that was quite different. What's common about all the TGI programs is a practice in mindfulness, is the practice of journaling, is a practice of learning dialogue process, and the cohort model of learning and sharing, and the process that each of the women described tonight of, it's okay. There's not a set deadline as long as you have it done by the weekend in 4 weeks. There's a lot of fluidity and spaciousness common to all the programs. There's some differences in schedule between some of the others, but another perspective could be, are you drawn to something that would be really stretch you in a different way? that wasn't as much about health. For example, the consciousness studies program that we have, from what I have learned from students and teachers, stretches you into considering ways of thinking, ways of perceiving. And there's a coaching with spirit program that can be part of that if you choose, which is a very transformational program in how deep it goes into the nature of who you are to become the best coach you can possibly be. So I'm just bringing these up, not to further confuse you, but to say you at this stage, you've got a lot of learning under your belt in similar areas. It may be exactly like Alicia just said, that's the way to go. Just keep going with that because you've already got so much foundation in that. Another perspective could be, maybe move out of that to get really into a very different set of thought processes and models and studies. And the consciousness program also gets into transpersonal psychology, which is not covered as much in the IHH program. So, but also so that we don't just leave you hanging after this, there are people on the team, on the staff that are expert at kind of going over the programs in more detail beyond just IHH, which was more of the focus tonight. So you've got a lot of good options, and it shouldn't take you more than a year or two to figure out which one feels right to you. Okay, good to hear you. So it's 7 o'clock. Here's what. Is there anybody else who wanted to ask anything?
Hi.
Great.
I am Juanita. I'm from Colombia. So I was trying to understand all of you, but I know English. I'm not so good speaking, but I understand when I read and when I listen to you. I'm a psychologist and I'm finishing my master in clinical neuropsychology. And I want to improve my skills or abilities of my English because I want to study in your institute. And all the histories and experience that I have listened today make me feel so happy because, like Alison said, I found many things that I have how I say it, that I have read in my books that I want to learn. I know it's a challenge for me because sometimes I can't. Now I'm nervous, so my English is not good.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah, but I found all the things that I like that I want to really learn because I know that I will work with people and I want to help these people not only in the cognitive level, also in personal, spiritual, and wellness, because I want improve these abilities on me. I don't know all the things that you have to say, but I have the challenge to improve better my English. I don't know. But yeah, now I can read very good and I can hear and understand, but that I want to say that it was very exciting for me hear you, because I was listening the website, reading the website many times, and now I can be here with you, and I have in the past it was only presential. I don't know, you have to be present for hear you and for be in the GTI but TGI, but now I can be here and I can hear you, and that is very good for me. I feel very happy because I could be here with all of you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. What a treat to have somebody from all the way from Colombia listening in. Fantastic. You did great. Your English is so much better than my Spanish. It's not even worth mentioning. Thank you. Thank you for that. So I have a closing question for each of the panelists, which would be, and try to do this in one sentence, partly because we're a little bit over time. If there was one thing you could say to somebody considering joining TGI, especially for IHH, but not just about IHH, what is the one thing, one sentence that you would say to a prospective student who's trying to weigh it out? Alyssa.
Oh, all right. I got a quick sentence. I'll go quick.
Oh, Allison, go. Great.
Follow the energy. If it lights you up, then it's aligned.
Excellent. Follow the energy. If it lights you up, then it's aligned. That should be a meme, Allison. Maybe it already is. Post it on your Instagram or wherever you are.
I would say
Great.
Keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
I would say the knowledge you acquire at TGI becomes shadow work daily, weeks, months, years after you graduate.
Great. Wonderful.
I would say, and this is hard in one sentence, Bruce, but don't hesitate. It is a life-changing and lifestyle-changing experience. And I'm going to add sentences. Sorry. I have the books that I was able to read from, in all the classes and everything from TGI. I have a health library now. I didn't have that before. I just love my health library, and I have lifelong friends from my tribe, and that's way more than one sentence, but it's a wonderful life.
So Cheryl, even though you didn't follow instructions, and but since this is TGI, you can't fail.
Thank you.
You don't have to stay after class.
Thank you.
You will have to write in the LER
Okay.
about this experience.
Okay.
And there is a deadline, and it's 10 minutes from now. So just letting you know.
I'll get it done. I'm an elementary school teacher. I can do it all. I got it.
But it could be whenever. 10 minutes. We're in a zone of nonlinear time now. So this does not need to be this 10 minutes that we're in this current timeline. So you're so much freedom.
I'll start it in 9 minutes. There we go.
There you go. Alicia.
Yeah, really hard to do in one sentence. But I would say if you're ready for transformation, jump right in, and go with it. And if it feels right, if it feels like home, it's where you're supposed to be.
Great. Did each of you says something, right?
Yes.
Alyssa, looks like you're trying to say something else. Alyssa.
One more thing, just because, so I'm currently enrolled into a Spanish class so I can practice my Spanish. So I want to say Juanita. That was inspiring just for you to have that confidence that you carried. Si se puede, go ahead. Yes. Okay, you got it. Si se puede.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, listen, I want to thank each one of you, Gina and Alyssa and Cheryl and Allison and Alicia. What a treat. I really loved getting to know each of you a little bit tonight. And thank you for sharing so openly and so enthusiastically and honestly. And everyone watching this live and people watching this at any point in the future, hopefully something really resonated for you tonight. It doesn't mean you're going to instantly decide you're going to become part of a master's program with us or a coaching program or something else, but hopefully something really resonated and touched you, and hold on to that. And because that was the moment of home that a couple of people just referred to. So see where that takes you and follow your heart. The world needs more heart. It needs more people turned on and loving and compassionate and empathic, all the things that have been discussed tonight. So thank you for being with us. Thanks to all of you for your contributions tonight. And I look forward to meeting in person. And when it's time that we can hug Do you think there might be any pent-up hug energy around? Possibly. I was raised by 2 huggers and brothers who hugged. I am genetically programmed to hug. If I don't get enough hugs in a given period of time, it's not pretty. And I've done all the work I can possibly do at this point over the last 15 months. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, thanks to everybody. Have a great rest of your day, your evening, and blessings and much love to everybody. Hug, group hug, please. Yeah, you can kind of lean close to your camera and hug each other. That's what I do. All right. Thank you so much. Take care. Great rest of your night.